Big Hero 6 might be the most obscure comic book to ever become a movie. And the reason that happened is all because of its name. Big Hero 6 turns 10 years old this month. So here are some things I bet you never knew about it. The story behind Big Hero 6 starts at Marvel Comics in the 1990s, when comic book writers Joe Casey, Joe Kelly, Duncan Rouleau, and Stephen T. Siegel all met while working on the X-Men. After some tough times at Marvel and then DC, the four of them decided to form their own artist collective, Man of Action Entertainment. As Siegel told Forbes, despite some tough times at those two comic giants, quote, "We liked working together though, so we thought, why not work together and make up our own franchises?" Founded in 1996, being a collective gave them bargaining power when dealing with those bigger companies. And one of their first creations was the Japanese superhero team Big Hero 6 for Marvel Comics. Set in Japan, its creators, Stephen Siegel and Duncan Rouleau, were inspired by the vibrant colors and pop culture of Japanese comics and fashion. Big Hero 6 was supposed to make its debut in Alpha Fight number 17 in December 1998, but instead they ended up premiering in Sunfire and Big Hero 6 number 1, September 1998, which would be the start of a short miniseries. The team included Hiro Takachiho, Honey Lemon, Go-Go Tamago, Baymax, Wasabi No Ginger, Fredzilla, Ebon Samurai, Silver Samurai, Sunfire, and Sunpyre. Big Hero 6 wasn't exactly a runaway hit. In fact, Marvel only published 10 Big Hero 6 stories total. As a side note, Man of Action would later go on to create the beloved Cartoon Network series Ben 10. Anyway, in 2009, Disney acquired Marvel, and CEO Bob Iger encouraged everyone at the company to explore Marvel's library for ideas. So enter director Don Hall, who started at Disney as a story artist on 1999's Tarzan and worked his way up across its animated features in the 2000s. While he was directing 2011's Winnie the Pooh, he was scrolling through a database of Marvel titles and stumbled upon Big Hero 6, a comic book he had never heard of before. But as he told the Toronto Sun, quote, "I just liked the title." So he explored it further and thought it might work as a Disney animated feature. He pitched it to John Lasseter in 2011. Lasseter was overseeing Disney Animation and Pixar at the time, and Lasseter liked the idea, so he put it into development. Disney revealed that it was working on the movie officially in June 2012, with Don Hall directing. Disney gave the movie a $165 million budget, and about 90 animators total worked on the film across its 2+ year production schedule. Because Big Hero 6 didn't have a lengthy comics history and was pretty obscure, Walt Disney Animation made a lot of changes to the source material in order to make it feel new and fresh. Head of story Paul Briggs only read a few issues of the comic, and screenwriter Robert L. Baird admitted that he didn't read the comic at all. The biggest change they make is that the story was moved from Japan to the fictional city of San Fransokyo. And while Hiro and a few others remain Japanese, many of the characters were given different ethnicities. Also, Baymax went from being a big green monster to the puffy white robot we all know and love. Big Hero 6 was solely made by Walt Disney Animation Studios. Kevin Feige's Marvel Studios was not involved, and the animators decided early in the process not to connect it to the MCU, but to rather have it be set in its own universe. That said, members of Marvel's creative team did give input, including Joe Quesada, Marvel's chief creative officer, and Jeff Loeb, head of Marvel Television. Big Hero 6 producer Roy Conley said Marvel allowed Disney complete freedom in structuring the story, and Joe Quesada later praised Don Hall and company, saying they've really taken the Big Hero 6 property, which at the end of the day doesn't have a lot of publishing history behind it, and built an entire world and mythology around it. He also said the relationship between Hiro and his robot has a very Disney flavor to it, but it's combined with these Marvel heroic arcs. As for casting and the vocal performances, Alan Tudyk plays Alistair. Tudyk is Disney Animation's good luck charm and has been in every one of their movies since 2012. Genesis Rodriguez, who voiced Honey Lemon, did her own dubbing for the Latin American Spanish version of the movie, and Stan Lee has a cameo as Fred's father. He appears in the post-credit scene, which I'll get to later. Scott Adsit from 30 Rock provided the voice of Baymax, and speaking of Baymax, Don Hall wanted him to be a new and unique robot from the get-go. Quote, "I wanted a robot that we had never seen before, and something to be wholly original." Artist Lisa Keene dreamed up the notion that Baymax should be a huggable robot. So early in the development process, Hall and the design team visited Carnegie Mellon's Robotics Institute, where they met a team of DARPA-funded scientists who were building soft robotics using inflatable vinyl. This, of course, led directly to Baymax's design. The team was also inspired by Miyazaki, Pokemon, and Shogun Warriors, and mecha designer Shigeto Koyama also worked on the concept design. But then putting Baymax in armor proved to be a bit challenging. Hall told Yahoo, "A big part of the design challenge is when he puts on the armor, you want to feel that he's a very powerful, intimidating presence, at the same time, design-wise, we have to relate to the really adorable simple vinyl robot underneath. Baymax's facial features were inspired by a copper Suzu bell that Hall saw while visiting a Shinto shrine in Japan. Baymax originally wasn't going to show up until late in the movie, but story artist John Ripa came up with a way to introduce him earlier, which ended up making the movie much better, but required some heavy first act restructuring. As for the design of San Fransokyo, it's an obvious mashup of Tokyo and San Francisco, visually speaking. The reason the Disney team picked San Francisco was because, one, it hadn't been in a Marvel movie yet, Ant-Man wouldn't come out till 2015, the city has iconic imagery, and they felt it would blend well with Tokyo. The lore behind the mashup city is that San Francisco was rebuilt by Japanese immigrants after the 1906 earthquake. Don Hall described the city as, quote, an alternate version of San Francisco. Most of the technology is advanced, but much of it feels retro. Hero's house is based on a Victorian house on the corner of Haight and Masonic in San Francisco's Haight-Ashbury neighborhood. Production designer Paul Felix told the SF Chronicle, quote, the topography is exaggerated because what we do is caricature. I think the hills are 1.5 times exaggerated. I don't think you could really walk up them. When you get to the downtown area, that's when you get the most Tokyo-fied, that pure, layered, dense kind of feeling of the commercial district there. When you get out of there, it becomes more San Francisco with the Japanese aesthetic. To make the film feel as real as possible, Disney bought the actual assessor data for the entire city of San Francisco. The movie contains 83,000 buildings and 100,000 vehicles. They used a software called Denizen to create over 7,000 distinct characters to populate the city. And another program called Bonsai created 250,000 trees, while a new rendering system called Hyperion was used to give the movie brand new lighting possibilities. For example, they were able to shine light through a translucent object for the first time, specifically Baymax's vinyl. Hyperion was a massive undertaking. Disney had to build a new supercomputing cluster just to handle Hyperion's processing needs. That cluster includes, get this, 2,300 Linux workstations split across 4 data centers, 3 of which were in LA and 1 in the real San Francisco. Each one of those workstations had a 2.4 gigahertz Intel Xeon processor, 256 gigs of memory, and a pair of 300 gig hard drives. The movie was initially not going to have a post-credit scene, but when Hall and his crew went to see Guardians of the Galaxy in August 2014, just a few months before Big Hero 6 was set to come out, they realized, oh wait, people now expect a post-credit stinger on a Marvel movie. So they added one at the last minute, which featured Stan Lee's character and indicated that he was once a superhero. Don Hall told Den of Geek, we didn't want people to leave the movie disappointed. Fall Out Boy then contributed an original song, Immortals, to the movie, and Big Hero 6 hit theaters on November 7th, 2014. It topped the box office, making $56.2 million domestic, beating out Interstellar, and at the time this was Disney Animation's second highest opening ever behind Frozen. Big Hero 6 would go on to gross $657.8 million total worldwide, making it the biggest animated movie of 2014, and Disney's third biggest animated movie ever in the US behind Frozen and The Lion King. According to Deadline, it turned a profit of $187.34 million. The movie was significantly altered for its release in South Korea. For starters, it was retitled Big Hero to avoid the impression that it was a sequel, and then due to historical tensions between South Korea and Japan, Hero Hamada was changed to Hero Armada, and Japanese language signs on screen were changed to English. But the movie still stirred some controversy in South Korea because of small images resembling the Japanese flag in Hero's room. The movie would go on to gross an additional $102 million on Blu-ray and home video over the next 7 years, and critics really liked it. Today, 90% of the 227 reviews assessed by Rotten Tomatoes are positive. It was nominated for and won one Oscar, Best Animated Feature. Big Hero 6 spawned a Disney Channel sequel series and a Baymax series on Disney+, and interestingly, this new version of Big Hero 6 went back to the comics as an IDW property, which marks the super rare occasion of Marvel licensing out its characters to another comics publisher. And the Big Hero 6 team has made a number of video game appearances as well, first in their own 3DS game in 2014, but then later as a major part of Kingdom Hearts 3. And there's a Baymax ride in Tokyo Disney, as well as a San Fransokyo land in Disney California Adventure. But as of 2024, there hasn't been any news about a big screen sequel to Big Hero 6, which is kind of surprising considering how successful the original was and how popular it still is 10 years later.